Whether it's the mythical animals of our time or the terrifying creatures from thousands of years ago, these beings were not just products of human imagination. They actually roamed this earth. Number 26. Cthulhu. Cthulhu is a creepy sea monster from a 1928 horror story said to haunt dreams from the depths of the ocean. But long before that tale, real sea monsters ruled the deep. One was Tusoteuthis, a massive squid-like creature that reached 40 feet long. That's 2 giraffes laid end to end. It had a hard shell inside, which made it stronger and faster than modern squids. It hunted giant fish and even baby marine reptiles. But like many others, it disappeared when the asteroid hit 66 million years ago. Cthulhu might be a story, but Tusoteuthis was real. And here's something to think about. We've explored only 5% of the ocean. So if monsters like that existed before, what else is hiding in the dark? Number 25. Kraken. As far back as the 12th century, sailors and people living near the sea told scary stories about the Kraken, a giant sea monster that looked like a squid. They said it attacked ships and pulled them underwater. The story probably began in the waters around Norway, Iceland, and Greenland. It spoke of a huge creature with long arms that could grab whales or smash large ships. The Kraken didn't just attack. It pulled ships down and made a strong whirlpool that sank everything and everyone on board. Like many old stories, this one was probably made bigger and scarier over time. But the first report of someone seeing the Kraken goes back to the year 1180. At that time, sailors didn't know about giant squids. So when they saw something strange in the water, they thought it was a sea monster that ate people. But what if the stories were true? In 1853, something big washed up on a beach in Denmark. It was a huge sea animal. The first time something like that had been seen up close, and it looked a lot like the Kraken from the old stories. Since then, scientists have asked how many kinds of giant squid exist and how big they can get. But can any of them reach the size people talked about in the past? Think about this. Animals like the megalodon and nothosaurus were real, and the biggest squid found so far was 43 feet long, about 13 meters. So many believe a squid that big could be real. But that's not all. In 2011, scientists found bones from very old sea reptiles. The bones were placed in a strange way. Some scientists said only a huge octopus or kraken-like squid could have done it. One scientist, Professor Mark McMenamin, has spent years trying to show that these giant squid were real. He looked at the bones of a sea reptile called a Shawneesaurus, which lived 200 million years ago. The bones weren't spread out, and they were grouped together. He also saw marks that looked like they were made by squid suckers, and the neck looked broken, so he believes something big attacked it. The way the bones were placed is like how today's octopuses pull food to their homes, but this sea creature would have had to be over 30 meters long to kill and eat that big reptile. That's more than twice the size of any squid we've ever found. So, was the Kraken real? Maybe. The old stories from sailors might not be all made up, and the deep ocean, which we still don't fully understand, could have been, or maybe still is, home to a creature like the Kraken. Number 24. Werewolves. Stories of humans turning into wolves go back thousands of years, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to ancient Greek legends. But some of these weren't just stories. One of the most scary real-world cases was the Beast of Gévaudan, a mysterious creature that frightened people in 18th century France. It attacked dozens of victims, but even big wolf hunts failed to stop the killings. So people began to wonder, was it one giant wolf or something more? Some believe it was just a very large predator, but others think it was something else entirely, something sick. Some scientists think the werewolf story might be based on real things. One cause could be a rare illness called hypertrichosis, a sickness that makes hair grow too much but doesn't change how people act, mixed with rabies, which can drive its host to bite and fear water, even holy water. Rabies hurts the brain and nerves, causing confusion, anger, and sometimes making people see things that aren't real. It grows in the spit, so it spreads easily through a bite. Sick animals often become violent and hard to predict, and they turn on people without warning. Number 23. Trolls. We've all seen trolls in movies, huge, ugly giants hiding under bridges. But in old stories from Northern Europe, trolls weren't always huge. Some were actually the size of regular people, with flat noses and rough features. Sounds strange, right? But some people believe trolls came from real ancient humans called Neanderthals. These ancient humans lived mostly in Europe. They had flat noses, strong bodies, and they didn't look pretty, but they were smart, and they knew how to make tools. Here's the interesting part. Neanderthals disappeared about 40,000 years ago, but for thousands of years before that, they lived side by side with early humans. So after they disappeared, stories about them may have slowly turned into myths. People may have remembered them as strange, scary beings, and over time, those memories became the troll stories we know today. Number 22. Cyclops. Have you ever heard of a creature so strange it had only one eye right in the middle of its head? That's the Cyclops, a giant said to live in dark caves, eating animals, and sometimes humans. Sounds wild, right? But here's the shocking truth. This myth may have started with something real. Thousands of years ago, ancient Greeks discovered giant skulls with a huge hole in the center. They had no idea what elephants were at the time, so they thought the hole was an eye socket. To them, it looked like proof that one-eyed monsters once roamed the earth. But the truth? That hole wasn't for an eye. It was for a trunk. These cyclops skulls were actually the turned-to-stone bones of ancient elephants like the Dinotherium or woolly mammoths. The bones were real, but the monsters were not. So the cyclops wasn't born from pure imagination. It was a real fossil, misunderstood. Number 21. Bunyip. In the deep swamps and waterholes of Australia, there's a terrifying legend, the Bunyip. Aboriginal stories say it hides near rivers, waiting in the shadows. Some say it even attacks humans. But what makes this creature so scary? They describe it as a giant beast, like a wombat mixed with something far more disturbing. Others say it looked more like a black seal with a bone-chilling scream that could freeze you in place. Most today say the Bunyip is just a myth. But what if it isn't? Around 65,000 years ago, when the first humans reached Australia, they didn't walk into paradise. They walked into a nightmare. Towering reptiles like Megalania hunted the land, and meat-eating marsupials like Thylacoleo stalked the forests. Even the peaceful giants like Diprotodon, a wombat the size of a car, could have left behind footprints too strange to explain. So it's possible that ancient people saw these creatures, or their bones, and passed down what they remembered. Maybe they even heard strange cries from seals trapped inland after floods, and mistook them for monsters in the dark. So is the Bunyip real? Yes, but not in the way we imagine. Its legend may come from real beasts that once ruled Australia, and whose shadows still haunt its waters today. Number 20. Leviathan. Leviathan wasn't just a myth. It's mentioned in the Bible as a sea monster so strong nothing could tame it. But here's something even weirder. People all over the world talk about huge sea monsters. Old Greeks spoke of snakes with very long necks, but sailors in Asia and the Pacific said they saw massive shadows slipping beneath the deep dark waves. These people never met, yet described nearly the same monster. That's not a coincidence. Why did so many believe something like this existed? About 50 million years ago, a real sea snake named Palaeophis ruled the oceans. It was over 30 feet long, the size of 4 small cars. It lived in warm coastal waters, so people long ago could have found its bones or seen rare survivors. But scientists say it's gone now. Still, over 95% of the ocean is unexplored, so some believe distant cousins may still be alive in the deep, causing modern sea serpent stories. But Leviathan might not have been a snake at all. Some stories describe it as something even bigger. There was a giant whale called Leviathan. It had teeth as long as your hand and hunted other whales. Some believe it even fought the Megalodon and won. So, scientists named it after the famous Leviathan. Leviathan wasn't just a myth. It was inspired by real monsters like giant whales and giant sea serpents that once ruled our oceans. And maybe something just as terrifying is still hiding deep below the waves. Number 19. Chupacabra. The chupacabra is a terrifying, blood-hungry creature, but it's not ancient. It appeared in 1995 in Puerto Rico when 8 healthy sheep were found dead. No struggle, just 2 holes in their necks, no blood. At first, no one had answers, but when nearly 1,000 animals died the same way, panic spread. Locals named the killer Chupacabra, which means goat sucker in Spanish. The name stuck, so did the fear. Witnesses described a short, muscular creature with claws and spikes down its back. Some said it jumped fences and vanished. Others saw a bald, dog-like beast with thick gray skin. The sightings spread. Mexico, Chile, Argentina, Florida. The monster had gone global. Photos and videos surfaced. But one case stood out. In 2007, a woman in Texas found a strange dead animal near her ranch. Her chickens had been drained of blood. She froze the head and gave it to scientists. Scientists looked closer and discovered that most chupacabras were coyotes with mange, an illness that makes them lose hair and look strange. But mange doesn't drain blood. It doesn't leave clean bite marks. That's why some people still wonder if the chupacabra might be real, hidden in the shadows. Number 18. Hydra. You remember the monster Hercules fought? That terrifying beast with many heads? That legendary creature was called the Hydra. It sounds impossible, but here's the surprise. It actually exists. But don't worry, it's not exactly the nightmare from the myth. In ancient Greek stories, a Hydra was a deadly water monster shaped like a snake, known for one terrifying trick. If you cut off one head, 2 grew back. Even worse, its breath was toxic enough to kill. Hercules defeated this beast during his famous 12 labors, making it one of the greatest stories ever told. The Greeks and Romans couldn't get enough of this story. It appeared everywhere, in paintings, pottery, sculptures, even coins. Clearly, this epic battle fascinated them deeply. But here's the twist. A real-life Hydra exists today. It's not huge or deadly, though. This Hydra is tiny, only about 10 millimeters long, about the size of a grain of rice. It lives underwater and catches its food using stinging arms. Here's where things get even stranger. Scientists discovered something shocking about this little creature. It might live forever. In In 2015, researchers tried many ways to kill the Hydra. They failed every time. Why? Because each time, the Hydra's cells grew back, keeping it forever young. Therefore, this tiny real-life Hydra could teach scientists something amazing about living forever. Ancient myths imagined an unstoppable monster, but nature created something even more incredible. A creature that never grows old. Number 17. Vampire. We've all heard stories about vampires, creatures that come back to life, drink blood, and hate sunlight. But could some of these scary stories be true? Stories of vampire-like creatures aren't new. They've appeared in nearly every culture around the world for hundreds of years. In Eastern Europe, scared villagers once believed vampires were in their towns, so they put wooden stakes in dead bodies, thinking it was the only way to stop them from coming back to life. But why did people believe these scary stories? Part of the reason is simple. They did not know what happens to a body after death. Sometimes a dead body's nails or hair looked longer. Other times, blood gathered around the mouth. These odd signs made people sure the dead were not resting. They thought something evil was at work. These stories did not stay only in Europe. Similar creatures show up everywhere. Strigoi in Romania, Vrikolakas in Greece, Upir in Eastern Europe, Asenbosum in Africa, Fetala in South Asia. But they all have one scary thing. They come back to feed on the living. Could vampires be real? Some real sicknesses fit vampire traits. For example, porphyria is a rare blood sickness that makes people burn in sunlight, have painful wounds, dark pee, and sometimes act strange. Sound familiar? Another sickness is rabies. Bats with rabies bite people, making them angry, see things that aren't there, or act odd. This might link vampires to bats. We may never know why stories say vampires hate garlic or silver, but rules like you must be invited in or you can't step on holy ground probably came from old fears and ideas. So Count Dracula is not real, but the fears and stories about vampires grew from real sights and real sicknesses. Number 16. Jersey Devil. Deep in the pine barrens of southern New Jersey, there's a creature that's scared the woods for hundreds of years. Since 1735, terrified witnesses have described something truly horrifying. A monster that's part goat, part bat, and part kangaroo. But its head looks more like a twisted horse, crowned with scary-looking horns. At night, it moves quietly on two legs, ending in sharp split hooves. Witnesses say it unleashes loud screams that echo through the forest, terrifying anyone nearby. Farmers regularly reported missing chickens, stolen by this mysterious predator. In fact, one farmer even shot at the beast, but no one could figure out exactly what he had seen. The legend says it all started when the creature was born to a witch, the wife of Daniel Leeds. Moments after birth, it sprouted dark wings, shrieked loudly, and vanished into the darkness, leaving only panic behind. But the fear was at its highest in 1909, when newspapers exploded with sightings, causing schools to shut down and workers to lock their doors, too afraid to leave home. The Jersey Devil, as it's known, is still a mystery even today. Is it a real monster hiding in New Jersey, or just an old story that got out of hand? Number 15. Ningen. In the early 2000s, Japanese sailors spotted something strange swimming near Antarctica. They called it ningen. Imagine this, a creature with long, creepy arms and a body like a mermaid. Soon photos popped up online, claiming to show this mysterious being. But sadly, most were proven fake. But here's the big question. Could a creature like the ningen really exist today? Antarctica is huge, mysterious, and barely explored, so who knows what's hiding there? Scientists don't know for sure, but they have some surprising theories. Some experts think the ningen could actually be a swimming sloth called Thalassocnus. Sounds weird, right? But these sloths had long arms, perfect for swimming. Their fossils are often found in Chile and Argentina, two countries very close to Antarctica. Another shocking theory? The ningen might be an ancient shark called Achilolamna. This shark also had long fins, swimming silently through prehistoric oceans, just like stories describe the ningen. However, fossil records show that Achilolamna disappeared around 66 million years ago during a huge extinction event. But here's the twist. Sharks are nature's toughest survivors. Many have lived longer than dinosaurs and global extinctions. So what if Achilolamna didn't disappear, but adapted, hiding in the frozen shadows beneath Antarctica? No one can say for sure. But the ningen, whatever it is, remains one of the coldest, creepiest mysteries our world has to offer. Number 14. Mothman. Out of all the creatures on this list, Mothman is one of the most recent to appear. His story began in 1966. Not ancient legend, but modern mystery. His first sighting was in a small town called Point Pleasant in the state of West Virginia. And since then, the legend began to grow. Witnesses described a towering black creature with glowing red eyes, 7 to 10 feet tall, strong and bird-like, yet far too massive to be any ordinary bird. Sightings started on November 15, 1966, and strangely, they stopped exactly 13 months later, on December 15, 1967. Why does that date matter? Because it's the day the Silver Bridge collapsed during rush hour, killing 46 people, and 2 bodies were never recovered. Years later, author John Keel released a book called The Mothman Prophecies, claiming claiming the creature was linked to strange activity and possibly even the bridge disaster. It was a bold claim, one that gave Mothman a chilling reputation. Over 100 sightings were reported in just that short window, and many locals later said they were too afraid to speak up at the time. That's a lot of fear for a creature no one truly understood. Was Mothman evil? That's the mystery. He never attacked, but people said he watched from a distance or banged on car roofs, especially when teenagers were inside. Compared to other scary creatures, that's pretty tame. Still, Point Pleasant never forgot. The town even built a statue in his honor, not because they loved him, but because his presence left a mark. Could Mothman have been someone playing a prank? Maybe. Or maybe something supernatural visited for a short time, caused fear, and disappeared forever. Whatever the truth is, the fear he sparked was real. That's why Mothman still haunts imaginations today.